Danny Figueroa was just like any other kid before the invention of cell phones, as he loved being outside and spending time in nature. But these habits still carried on into adulthood, as it seemed like Danny's mental state remained that of an adolescent. He called himself a survivalist, infatuated with military fatigues and sleeping outdoors, as he wandered through the woods with his rifle. In his twisted mind, he was on the battlefield scoping out the enemy, but in reality, innocent people were on the other end of his gun. Welcome to History's Biggest Villains. Danny was born on September 24th, 1959 in Moreno Valley, California. Danny enjoyed the outdoors like any normal kid at the time, but these habits still carried on into adulthood, although it seemed like he had a developmental disability, as he still had the mind of a child in his mid-20s. He was infatuated with wearing military fatigues, sleeping outdoors, and hunting. Since most people his age group had actual responsibilities, he preferred to spend time with teenagers. This wasn't in an inappropriate manner, as he simply wanted some people that shared his fantasies of high adventure and paramilitary games. Danny actually taught the boys how to camp and hunt with BB guns. But in 1986, a switch had flipped, and Danny became tired of hunting animals, so he started looking for new targets. On May 13th, he was wandering through a guango with his rifle in hand when he spotted 53-year-old Reynolds Johnson doing yard work in front of his house. Danny raised his weapon and fired, as a high-velocity round struck Reynolds in the chest, killing him. Witnesses recalled a stranger in the neighborhood, dressed in military green, but the police were left without a motive or a suspect in the crime. The very next day, Danny was wandering through the property of Thomas Breedlove, and when Thomas saw him, he went out to investigate. When Danny pointed his rifle at him, Thomas's son David noticed the situation and rushed out with his own gun, shooting at the assailant and forcing him to retreat. The next morning, the father and son followed Danny's footprints, eventually finding a backpack with a Bible quote, "I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live is the flesh I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me." 2 weeks later, 19-year-old Raymond Weber was riding to work on his brother's ranch. Danny was paranoid as he felt like Raymond was following him in his truck on a 25-mile hike up Palomar Mountain. Danny flagged Raymond down, and when he stopped, Danny pulled out a shotgun and shot him in the head, killing him. On June 4th, a man was trying to cross the border into California, cutting through a lettuce field in Imperial County, hoping to reach some friends that could drive him to LA. After he was confronted by Danny, his military uniform gave off the impression that he was a Border Patrol agent. The man froze, giving Danny the perfect shot with his rifle. However, the man survived and he crawled to the highway, where he was picked up by a passing motorist and taken to a hospital. After the man recovered, he offered police a solid description of his attacker. Danny was actually spotted and captured by police not too long after. They took his gun, but he denied any involvement in the shooting. When asked why he was roaming the woods dressed in military gear and armed with multiple weapons, he claimed to be a survivalist, merely rehearsing field maneuvers in anticipation for society's collapse. But surprisingly, the victim wasn't able to definitively name Danny as the gunman, and he was let go due to lack of evidence. This extremely close encounter only seemed to embolden Danny, as 4 days later, he was in Indio, roaming around like he usually was, when he was spotted by Robert Jimenez, who was barbecuing in his backyard. The unusual man dressed in camouflage and armed with a rifle waved and smiled at him, before suddenly raising his gun and pointing it in his direction. The gunman let out a flurry of bullets as Robert tried to hide behind some bushes. He was hit twice, once in the shoulder and once in the right arm, and then he continued to shoot even as Robert ran onto a neighbor's patio. After a bullet struck a window, the homeowner ran out and tried to chase the shooter, but he quickly retreated once he saw the high-powered rifle that the killer was carrying. Danny eventually fled, and Robert survived his wounds. On June 17th, 72-year-old Margaret Lengerich was walking her dog along San Mateo Canyon Road in Redlands. Danny was lurking in the bushes nearby when he spotted the woman. He raised his rifle and shot her 5 times in the back, killing her. As he fled, he was seen by 2 construction workers. The increase in attacks, along with the discovery of 3 bodies in just over a month, sparked fear in the residents of both Riverside and San Bernardino County. Both Thomas Breedlove and Robert Jimenez reported their encounters with a man wearing military clothes and carrying a rifle, and both by then had started to speculate if he was the killer, and their statements were backed up by multiple witnesses. At the height of the investigation, the authorities used search dogs and helicopters to scour the area, looking for a man the press dubbed as the Backwoods Sniper. Danny was eventually named as a suspect in Margaret's murder, Dan was also connected to the other assaults and murders after witnesses correctly identified him as the armed wanderer. After a 12-day search, authorities discovered him still wearing his military uniform, hiding under a flood control channel, and he was arrested without incident. After Danny was captured, he was booked in Riverside County Jail, being charged with the attempted murder of Robert Jimenez. He was also charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances. Danny admitted to all the murders, but he claimed that he shot Raymond in self-defense since he was following him for 25 miles. To avoid the death penalty, Danny pled guilty to the murders and was sentenced to 66 years to life in prison. He died on December 20th, 1998. I'm just kind of confused, like, what really flipped in him? Like, what was the switch that really flipped? Like, what was the impetus to be like, okay, I'm tired of going around shooting animals. Let me go shoot people. And the fact that he was let off because the guy didn't even identify him correctly. Maybe he was scared because he thought maybe he was going to get deported back to Mexico. I don't know. But the fact that he could have been stopped earlier, but the guy just couldn't identify for some reason. These guys with these weird military fantasies, they walk around like they're soldiers, but they never even step foot on the battlefield. It's just ridiculous. It's always like the guys that never even dreamt of becoming soldiers. Thank you guys. I really appreciate y'all for the support. I hope you guys have a happy new year. Thank you. Please be safe. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.